So at the beginning, what I'm going to do is just go through these colors. This is an old palette I used for a different master copy, and it's really just kind of like my working palette. And at the beginning, all I'm going to do is just grab a brush that I think he may have used something similar to. This is a Legion, which is a little bit, stiff. It's not super soft, but it should be able to kind of get some of this marks. I also have a couple other ones. I've got some bristles over here. I've got a stiff bristle that I love to use, just a Raphael. But really what it is just to warm myself up to it and take a look here at possibly what Pushman could have been doing. The other thing is that I have a canvas. It's toned. I think it's just some burnt umber. And at the beginning, I'm just going to work from my iPad mini. And what I'm going to do is just kind of knock this in just to get a little bit of a study, really, of just a piece of the painting. Just to warm ourselves up so it's not super daunting to do too much too early. There's the angle of that. And I normally wouldn't work this way. I wouldn't work, over the top like this. I usually do it on an easel. There we go, up. Just kind of mass it in. Burnt umber is always a great color to kind of sketch in. Now, I know from kind of studying Pushman that he used charcoal underneath, at least in the image that I found. So, as I move forward on the next step, as I get into the drawing side of it, that's going to be where I basically take and try to do very similarly what he is. All right, so there's this. Again, just massing it. The hand comes off there, comes off into there. It's really just kind of warming yourself up to this. All of this is just very, very contemplative. The way to kind of study a master. And again, this is just my opinion of it. I'm sure there are other ways to do it. Go. So the thing that you begin to ask too as you do this is, what are the color choices? Now, I'm going to just take it for a spin here. Just see what I can get. It's not so much about, perfection. I'm not color matching or anything like that. It's really just taking it, warming up to it. This looks like a neutral in the back, but it looks like it's got a touch of something to just warm it up. So good time to just add that in, see what we can get. Now, I'm going to just, again, mass in these shapes, colors, what I think I see. Look at how dark that is, right? So I just adjust. But, the thing I love, where I think Pushman was working, is that it is a very, very direct method. Direct in the sense that there wasn't like a transfer of a drawing. I remember watching Travis Schlott work and just seeing him work in charcoal really quickly to get the essence down. And it was more of just almost kind of compositional, but it wasn't like he wasn't transferring a drawing over, anything of that nature. He was really just confident in the way that he was going to be able to kind of pull it out. So, pull it off. All right, there we go. Pull some of that over here. Pull this down. All right, and then this, as it begins to develop, I want to get a little of that played in. Let's get a little burnt umber. Burnt umber is always a great one to draw for drawing. Draw, 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 draw. That's what I highly recommend everyone to do. See if we can get a little contrast in here. You know, and a lot of the way I tackle this, seeing so much of my teaching is shape, 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 shape. Now this is all too light. So let me dig into that. Ivory black. This is where it gets interesting because, you know, one of the things that really attracts me to Pushman and his work is that there's a strong textural element to it, you know, and I think it just adds so much of a flavor to the whole thing. It really makes it so I feel the audience can really feel it, feel the painting. Ooh, there we go. So that's an interesting one. So the blue-green, can I hit it? Right? So I was on the fence about whether or not I was going to put phthalo out. I didn't put it out. But there's a bit of it almost looks like cerulean, but I don't think it's possible he did. But that's what this is about. It's really taking it for a test drive. And then now going into what you think you know, and then making an educated guess. So there's a bit of a linear quality in here. Not quite sure what he was doing. Really gets you to study. I mean, the beautiful thing about painting is that I'm crafting the whole thing piece by piece, putting it back together. What that allows is the studying of each moment. Shape there. Shape in here. Go. And the thing I wouldn't do is enlarge it on the iPad. Get the basic colors and relationships in first, and then if you need to, you can blow it up. But I think you'll see that the essence of the painting may be here rather quickly. You know, and the question sometimes is like painting from far, you know, that idea of how much does a painting need? I think it's a great question to always be kind of asking. Now I can build up the texture after too, so this is kind of like blocking in the color. Let me turn this light on. That's where, like, again, what fascinates me about Pushman is that it's so much more than just the objects. I think there's a connection to the marks and the texture that I resonate with. Doesn't mean everyone has to, but just my 2 cents on it. See, like the ivory, I believe it was ultra, together make a nice dark blue. you see just that there's so much more even in here. Now, this is where if you do have lead white, this is lead. I've been using titanium. This is also where I always feel that there's like that textural element that starts to kind of pull into the work. One of the reasons for that is that it's so hard to get to get this to sit. It's almost like how cobalt violet sits. You see that? It's picking up so much underneath it, and it's very, very unique and weak in that sense. And beautiful. Pull it up. That it's just, there's no other, like titanium, it just acts so different. And that's why when I hear someone talking about just switching out titanium or lead for titanium, I just don't think it's that changeable. I mean, I get it from for it being toxic, but I think there's just so much, if you can, in using lead white, that it's just worth it to try. It's just so many good things about it. I mean, at Lyme, where I teach, everyone uses it, and that's all they use. And most of the time, I'm like, you should consider adding titanium with that in mind, that, you know, they're two different, one's strong and one's weak, but they're both good to have, you know. So here's, you know, you add this over here, see how it just builds the body to the paint. I think that's what he's doing when he's starting to kind of drag the texture into it in here. And it really is good for like these slow movements on form. So just feels like you're building body with the paint. All right, so then there's again, you know, this, you spend as much time as you want on this. Doesn't have to be a 2-hour thing. Doesn't have to be a 3-hour thing. It could be maybe 10 minutes to see what you can get done. Maybe you want to spend more time, you know, and that's really up to you. But you know, test this out. Let's see what there we go. There's the Viridian. Feel it. I mean, that's the whole thing about painting, and at least in my opinion, is that it's more than just painting pretty little pictures. It's really about getting a feel, you know, a deep sense, a connection to the things that we're painting, and hopefully expressing that in the painting. There's some white still left in there. I don't think it's a bad thing. It's interesting. I probably wouldn't put it in there, but you know, again, there's texture in here. Like in here, it just makes me think he must have been like coming back the next day and dry brushing over the top and just pulling it. I think also, you know, speaking to artists, Mike Klein was a good one. I kind of picked his brain in an interview where he was talking about he loves the idea that he wants to make it so that nobody can replicate, or a computer couldn't understand what the heck he's doing, you know. And I was like, oh, that's fascinating. You know, and his whole thing was that he sands it, and he just adds like a level of more than just like just a color, you know. There's a complexity to everything. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Get that value. I try to get some of that face in. Right, that's the... that. Just beautiful yellows. This is the raw sienna. Listen. Maybe a little yellow ochre in there through here. And one thing I just realized, I don't have a true like super yellow on here. I don't even know if I'll need one though, because it does look like, I don't know, you know, there's a connection when I look at his work, and also Carlson, Email and Dines. And I bet you that the only yellow, I think Email had another one, but maybe it's just yellow ochre. So commonly I see people doing versions of, you know, I think it's a bit more than just an ode, but they look like they're just doing Pushman paintings. I don't know. I try not to do that. I'm definitely inspired, but there should be an essence, in my opinion, extracted from it, and not versions of people's paintings, you know. There you go. So look at that. So when you pull down into this mixture, you pull this up here, there's a textural quality again that, you know, this affords. It feels goopy, and it's really the kind of beauty of lead. Now, lead is also something you got to be careful of. If you were to try to sand, then, you know, that's when you want to be very, very careful. Let's just cake some on, see if we can get some of what he had going on here. I think it was texture. Up through there. I think of lead white as gentle. There's a little, looks like almost orange up through here. Could have been a crimson, like a alizarin or something he had on the palette. But there's not a lot of red in here, so I'm just going to go with, you know, again, of course, you're hearing dialogue in my head of what I'm going to use here to do the painting. But here we go. Cake some on here. So it just pulls. It's the beauty of lead white. Now, lead white, of course, like I said, is toxic, but it's really, I think, when you're sanding it, of course, don't eat it. Don't eat any of your paints. I don't recommend anyone do that. But, you know, that's is commonly like a bad rap. I think that also cadmium sometimes get a bad rap as well. But look at that texture that's added there by just caking it, pulling it. See, it kind of makes it uneven. Again, this doesn't have to be a finished painting. You can, of course, stop whatever you'd like. That there's like a outline that just appears and kind of comes and goes, and I would say that tells me he may have kind of worked inking part of it. I don't know, hard to say, but it's really what the beautiful study of this is. And maybe just like when I talked to Mike, I had all these ideas of things that I wanted to try, kind of like watching videos of other artists' work. I mean, I'm always looking and evolving, but I think that's very, very interesting to kind of see. Master copies in general are fantastic to just get in the habit of doing. I do at least one a year. Should do more, but it's just such a fantastic way to just keep learning. I don't know, maybe some people don't want to keep learning, but I think I do, and just offers so much. I don't know, stay humble, keep learning, learn how to keep learning too. Down there, look at that. All right, back to, let's see if we can. That is what I love about it. You thought you got it close before, and see how the paint kind of now drags over the top. Again, I think that there's a bit of scraping going on. Could also be a tooth of the surface that's different. Sometimes that, the weave of the canvas. There's just so many factors in all this stuff. That's why it's so hard for anyone to give, basically just opinion on any of it. Try with that one. And just pull it and leave it. But also it's wet, so it pulls up some of that ground. Then there's also the switching of a brush. I mean, this is all just me playing with that. So let's pull this in. Now I'm grabbing even more paint. Right? Like a bristle. Just going to give you a different mark. lead is just so weak. That's why, like, see all that buildup right there? Right now. So of course you can just go back and forth with brushes. See what this will get. And it really could be just some more yellow in there. Ooh, way too yellow. I think also the thing that separates artists trying to do master copies and learn from the greats, you know, is that there's a confidence in the way that they're painting this way. You know, like the way that Pushman, I'm sure, just kind of moved through a work. And, you know, students don't typically have it. And it makes it difficult because when you don't have it, you're putting these different kind of marks. So, like, you're slowly building it and you don't feel confident. And the confidence is also a part of, like, the movement of the brush rather than, you know, short little choppy marks. They're more like confident pulls to get the paint where it needs, where he probably would want the, you know, control even at a fast mark. I think it's really what, like, some ateliers just don't understand, where, like, you look at this stuff and I don't think slow methods could get some of it. And, you know, he was 60s. He died in 66, so I think there was a looseness and a letting go. Probably some of them loved, you know, painters. Dines Carlson died in 66 also, but who loved the abstract as well. I don't think, you know, the atelier makes it seem like everyone hated abstraction. Perhaps elements of it, but also beauty in a lot of that work too. Let's try ultramarine blue. I think that can get that mark. I think one of the things I love too is that it has a kind of pastel-y look to the whole thing, which tells me that the medium was really soft and dragging throughout, and not so, you know, like some manufacturers say that, or even Ralph Mayer would say it, that paint should be buttery. But I don't know. I think it should be as altered as you want, and you can add mediums and stuff like that too. I'm not gonna do it, but you know, perhaps if I spent a while painting a lot of these, I would probably try to introduce a medium or something to see if maybe it got the mark. But again, it's just a guess. You know, if he were alive and I went and visited him, I'd probably ask him a ton of questions and then go home and see if I could do it, and I probably still couldn't do it, and I probably still couldn't do it even if he showed me how to do it. Quite fascinating. Again, not trying to. I'm trying to do a. It's not a forgery. I think that can't be stressed enough. It's more of a exploration into the methods. I mean, at least not for me. I don't ever see them as forgeries. Yeah, this brush seems to be working out pretty well too. Bottom of the lip, pink. So raw sienna. Feel like maybe Ultra could hit that. It's possible. It's got maybe a violet lean to it. The thing is, by building it this way, I have to add more paint. By adding more paint, I feel like I'm painting with more of the tip of the brush to get it to sit on there. Softly place it. And I feel like, that's also part of this. I add a note like that, and all of a sudden it feels balanced. Dragging there. See, titanium will really pull it over. And of course, go as far as you want with this. But just using it as a warm up. We'll dabble in through there. This is the titanium. See if I can get a little bit more tinting in there. That is where I usually just mix the middle of a lot of things just to see. Just like whatever the heck is on the palette. That texture that's like pulling up now. I'm going over those spots for a second time. Soften that. All that texture. It almost seems now, the more I look, like he must have pulled in some like Viridian over it. I think, I don't know. It's so funny. It's like your eyes have just opened more to the color by studying it for so long. It's quite possible. I'm more keen to it, but so fascinating. He's such a good painter too. See how that like really just adds the weight over on that side. Great way to even just learn how to paint every day. If you want to put yourself through the exercise of it, do some master copies. See that like dragging right there, that brush? See that? It's very natural. Not overworked. Go. Like that background come in a touch. And then there's a bit more of a contrast here, which tells me this probably come up into the light a little bit more. Haven't used that CAD. Let's see if it adds something. in there. A little bit more black. A little contrast between those two. That was wet into wet, so let me restate that. Get that a little darker. See, once you make that dark, how light that pops. Let's get that darker then. There we go. Yeah, too light. See, looks dark here on the palette. Pull it over here. Gets too light. So it has to sit in the right context. So much like action going on up in here. It's all texture too. That's what just gets me. Right up in there, just, man. So good. Probably a good place to stop, but anyway, do something like that. It's a good, good small little study to do, and warm yourself up to your work, the palette. See how you feel about it. See if you could get the color. Sometimes even the translation could be wrong of the color that we now think that the artist used, but there's room to kind of move out of this rather than be kind of locked in too early and then go, the color's off. Of course, you can move later and move through that as well, but good time to just kind of warm up, study it, and then of course wait, get your print made for the master copy. Do it from an iPad if you want to. You do it from a phone. Whatever you want to do, you can do it from a printout too, a little easier, I think. All right, let's get a little touch of the magenta or violet.